Hey, post-travel Geoff, how's it going, huh? What do you think? Is it worth getting out of the house? Should I take this trip? You're about 10 days ahead of me right now. I have no idea, but I'm pretty nervous about the whole thing. I hope it's going well. What I can do right now is talk about analytics. Analytics is a little like exercise. We all know we should do it, but most of us don't. Why? Because it seems like a hassle, and I'm good enough as I am, right? Do I really need to do all that? Analytics is sort of the same thing. We all know we need to do it, but isn't it kind of a hassle? And my intuition is pretty good. I know how my project is doing. You don't. Just like we probably need to do some exercise. So what we're going to do for the next 20 minutes is talk about analytics, how easy it is to do it, how crazy you would be not to do it. Maybe we should start by talking about what exactly analytics is. Let's dispel any misconceptions you may have. So what is analytics? Do you see this road? That dark, creepy road? That's your project. Do you understand that your project is kind of scary? Do you know why it's scary? Because there's a lot you don't know, and you don't know it because you can't see it. There are all of these things that could be influencing the success of your project. All these factors you may or may not have considered that can be influencing the success of your project, and you can't see them because you're not doing analytics. Now look very closely at your screen. Lean in, and if you look right in the middle of the road, are you leaning in? If you look right in the middle, clown! Clowns are scary. No, if you look at the new image here with the lights on, it's still creepy. It's still a creepy road. But at least you can kind of see where you're going. You can see where you've come from, and you can make some adjustments. You can make some changes on your road to the finish line, to whatever it is you're trying to achieve. Analytics is that light. It shines a light on your project. It exposes information that can tell you what's working, what's not working, and help you to adjust. But if we do something a little more wordy, what is analytics? Analytics is discovering, interpreting, and communicating patterns in collected data. You got to find the data, you got to interpret the data, and then you have to communicate the data, right? Those are the three things you need to do. How do you do that? Well, you start with observation. Observations are what you do when you're collecting data. That's how you bring in the data. And it ends with key performance indicators. Those are the measurable things that are, at the end of the day, those are the light bulbs, right? They tell you specific things about your project. You observe, you interpret, you communicate through those key performance indicators. You use them to make decisions about your project. And by doing that, you gain design, operational, and business insight. You get a whole bunch of different things that you learn about your project by performing analytics. So what kind of things? What do we mean by insight? Which ultimately is why bother, right? Why bother doing analytics? Well, from the design perspective, it's all about the goal, the objective of that project. How well does your project design drive your target audience towards fulfillment of that business objective? You were given a mission. Everybody needs to do X. How well does your project drive people to X? It could be purchase, could be educate, could be to inspire, whatever that is. How well does it do it? And are there things you should change, improve, eliminate to make it better? You only know the answers to these questions if you measure, if you gather information about the active deployment, interpret that information, and then act on your insight. What do we mean by operational insight? This is about performance, scalability, reliability, cost. Are there quality issues getting in the way of project success? So this is the hardware, the software, the location, the lighting, the sort of tangible aspects of the deployment that are influencing your audience's ability to take advantage of what was created and to use it successfully. You kind of need to know these things, and you can achieve this insight through analytics. And then finally, from the business perspective, well, from one perspective, this is about what did I learn, now that everybody's fulfilling that objective, what did we learn? But you can actually take a step back and talk about context. What didn't we know about our target audience that influences how they pursue the business objective. Are they influenced by location, by demographic, by time of day, by the weather outside, by sports scores? Who knows? Are there influencers that we may never have anticipated that will change how the audiences pursue my intended business objective, the business's objective? Context is a big deal. And through analytics, you can measure easily factors that otherwise might be very difficult to capture and see if you can identify trends that influence how your audience is acting, and then act on those things. And so do you ultimately change the message? Do you change the visuals? Do you change the campaign objective? Because you've learned things about your target environment, about your target audience. This could be everything from a museum exhibition to a sales pitch. I mean, any of these types of presentations with a target audience have an objective, and you have design, operational, business insights you can collect through analytics to help you make better decisions about what to do to make it more successful. So that's what analytics is. How does it work at Intuiface? Because we make all of this possible, and I want you to understand it's not hard to do. It's easy to do. So on the left, you have your Intuiface experiences. Could be 1, could be 100, it doesn't matter. Each experience is independently collecting its own data set. If I have 10 experiences, could be the same one, could be different ones, doesn't matter. But 10 devices, 10 experiences, each is collecting its own data set. Those data sets are uploaded to what we call the data hub that lives in the cloud. You never see it, you just access it. And then you somehow consume that data. Now you can export it, that's that upper arrow. That means taking the data and putting it in some third-party platforms. You can do analytics, so we've got a whole bunch of integrations available out of the box. Or you can use our own charts and dashboards feature. That's what most of our customers do. They take the data in the data hub, they create charts to visualize that data. They then publish those charts in dashboards, which are updated in real time, dashboards that can be published to the web. For most people, you don't have an analytics background, you'd be using Intuiface charts and dashboards. It's super simple to do, and you can do it right away. It's available no matter what platform tier you have, which we'll talk about at the end of my discussion. All right, so that's how it works at a high level. You collect it in the experience, it's automatically uploaded to the hub. You then somehow consume that data so you can visualize it and then reach some conclusions and act on it. What can you collect with Intuiface? Well, pretty much anything visible to the running experience can be collected. Now, the obvious example are interaction events, what was touched, what genders were seen by the camera, any type of interaction. That inherently is measurable. You can capture that information. But that can include user identification information. In other words, it's not just what they touched, but maybe information on their card or some kind of badge reader. Maybe they filled out a form. So this isn't just what they interacted with, but maybe information they provided, either actively or passively. And then environmental info, which is a lot of that context that we spoke about a moment ago. Again, weather, time, location. Are these influencers? And all of this information can be captured and stored by Intuiface. You could pull it up later to visualize it and hopefully reach some interesting conclusions. Once you're done, as I mentioned, you can create your own charts. You visualize them. You see that here. We support more than 20 different chart types. It's super easy to use. We basically took a look at the platform we use to run our business and said, how do we make that really simple? Because again, we know most of you have never really done this before, so we couldn't come up with something complicated. That doesn't make sense. We wanted to come up with something simple, and we did, and it's really, really trivial. I'll show you a little bit in a moment, but you make your charts. Again, you publish them as dashboards to the web. You, your boss, your clients can see that whenever they want, get the latest information. Even that's interactive. You can interact with the charts for filtering and that sort of thing. So that's it in a nutshell, but we need to do a demo, right? Don't we have to do a demo? So let's do that. Let me pull up Composer. I've created a little experience, and I want to show you how easy it is to collect information and make it available for analysis, okay? So here's a very simple experience where we're going to browse a photo gallery, fill out a guest book, and then leave. And what we want to do is collect information. We want to know the most popular artists in the digital photo gallery, and we want to collect information from the guest book. We want to store it online in digital form for later. So in Composer, if I want to do analytics, the first thing I need to do is add the data tracking interface asset to my experience. So in the interface assets panel on the left, add an interface asset. Right here under analytics, you can see data tracking, and I will add that to my experience, and there it is on the left. Simply by virtue of adding the interface asset to my project, the experience will automatically collect information about every time you enter and leave a scene. Okay. Now you can toggle that on or off, but by default it's on. When do I enter a scene? When do I leave it? How long have I been there? That can tell you dwell time, which is a very common, very highly sought after bit of data. How long do people spend on each scene? And you can average that out and get total time, that sort of thing. So just by adding, it's automatically turned on. You can do that. Let's get some information. So the first thing I want to do is create a session. In other words, I want to differentiate one visitor from another. I'm going to create a session. So on this button right here, we have a single trigger. You can see that in the upper right. When the button is pressed and released, it navigates to the next scene. I'm going to add one more action. Interface assets, data tracking, start new session. Now I can give it a name. I'm not going to give it a name, so it generates a random ID. The idea here is every time a new person interacts with this particular digital exhibit, we're going to differentiate them from the other users. So it's not just one big bag of touch points. We can differentiate person from person. So great, and I'm actually going to move that up. By moving that up, I'm ensuring that the session ID is associated with this scene, not the next scene. It's personal preference. I want to make sure that's done. Okay, so somebody presses that button. They go to the next scene. And here we have a digital photo gallery. Every time an image is selected, this thing floats into view. You see that down here? Whoops. That floats into view. Every time an image is selected, let me just enter. That puppy on the bottom floats into view. I want to do one more thing, which is collect information about which artist is being selected. So on the left, you see a photo template. This is the data feed for this digital gallery. In this case, under the covers is Excel. If you look on the left, you can see it's coming from an Excel spreadsheet called Photo List. Whenever that photo template is selected, whenever any image in the data collection is selected, then do a bunch of stuff. So when it's tapped, all of these things happen. All of these things you see have to do with that window at the bottom that slides into view. Okay? Changes the images, sets some text, and then moves the thing to view. I want to do one more thing. Add one more action. Data tracking, log event. I want to create a data point. In this case, the data point will be, hang on a second. Image is tapped, thank you. Add a parameter. And I've done a bunch of stuff already. It remembers parameter names. I could type my own, but we'll say the artist, and then we want to bind to the artist name. So using the binding panel, I'm going to select the artist. Okay. So this is not a lesson about working with interface assets. Needless to say, what I'm saying is whichever item is selected, I want that artist's name stored as a parameter in this data point. The event, the data point is called image is tapped. It has one parameter. It's called artist, and I've stored a value for that artist's name. Whatever image is tapped, that's what you get. So every time an image is tapped, we're going to create a data point called image is tapped and store the artist's name for analysis. Let's go to the next scene. This is where we have the guest book. Notice there's an email address and a comment and then a send button. I'm going to use Intuiface Analytics to store data. So this ultimately is not about analysis. This is just a convenient way to store data that I can access later. So on the left, there's the send button, which has an action right now, which is going to the next scene. I'm going to add another action, data tracking, log event. And in this case, this is about recording guest book information. So we'll just say button is released. It's something I've typed before, so we'll do it again. And remember, we have email address and we have the note, right? The comment. So I've already done guest email. That's fine. And let me bind to scene structure, There's the input text asset. Oh, that's right here. Text. So I'm taking the value from the text field in which somebody typed their email address. I'm taking that and putting it into the parameter called guest email. I'll add one more parameter. We'll call this guest comment. And then we will bind to the text input asset that's used for the comment, which is this one. Text, close, close. So every time the send button is pressed, we're collecting that information for analytics. And then finally, we need to end the session. So in this scene, let's just add a trigger. When the scene has been entered, then data tracking, stop current session. We started it at the beginning. We stop it here. We're flying through this. This is not hard. The trick is knowing what you want to collect. That's the trick. What do you want to collect and what do you need to do to collect that data, right? I knew what I wanted to do. The experience is already designed. Let's just generate a little bit more data. I've already done this a couple times. Press me to start. And we've got this image here. Notice the panel has slid into view with information about the selected image. We can select a couple of others here. Very nice. And I'll scroll over and we got a couple cool animal photos. That's nice. And we have Thailand on the left, and that's always, I love that picture right there. Okay, sign our guest book, and then we'll say Geoff@bessin.com. Great recording. Thank you, Geoff. Send, end the session. Right? We just ran the experience as player behind the scenes. We ran that session, that experience. We just collected some data. Let's go to our browser. So if you've ever been to my Intuiface, you might have seen analytics dashboards here, analytics data there. If you go to analytics dashboards, you'll see all of your dashboards that have been that you've created in your account. And we have a chart that I've created myself. Okay? If we edit it, you'll see that it's very simple to build. What I've done is I've taken the artist name and I've put it on both the X and the Y axis. For the X axis, I want the name. For the Y axis, I want the count, the number of times that particular artist was selected. This is the latest data, which includes the data we just generated a moment ago, and you can see the chart is right there. I don't need to make any changes. It's up to date. Let's go to the dashboard and we can refresh. So this is the published dashboard with my chart, and you can see we have the latest data. And I don't know who Francis Berger is, but he or she is the most popular artist right now in our gallery. Back over here in the charts view, you can see on the upper right my ability to share, as I said, to publish dashboards. We automatically generate URLs and the iframe code if you want to embed it. So we even make it very simple for you to publish those dashboards and get it out there. Look, I understand I flew. I'm only given 20 minutes, but that's not hard to do. The hardest part is knowing what to collect, right? What do I collect? What kind of chart do I need to create? Actually collecting the data and actually collecting the charts, creating the charts and publishing the dashboards is a piece of cake, which is really Composer big picture, right? Composer makes it easy to create stuff. You still need a good idea. You still need good content, but the creation phase is pretty simple. So let's go back to my slides and just talk a little bit about how this is packaged, because every single customer can do this. All of you can do this. Whether you have Essential, Premier, or Enterprise platform plans, you can use analytics. There is a tiering difference. So for example, how many data points can be stored per player? This is 2K per player. Each player can independently collect 2,000 data points in a given month if you're the Essential tier, or 10K for Premier, or 30K for Enterprise. So the higher your platform tier, the more data points per player that can be stored in the cloud. You can, no matter what level you are, unlimited number of charts, unlimited number of dashboards. You can do some cool branding stuff with dashboards when you're at the Enterprise tier. If you want to do export, well, you can't be Essential. You need to be Premier or Enterprise. But you'll notice that other than these sort of data point limitations, you can do everything. You can build any charts you want. You can publish any dashboards you want. It's real simple. All of you can do it. So I urge you, try Intuiface Academy. There's a whole course about analytics in Intuiface Academy. It's totally free. Walk through the course. Get used to the idea of analytics. Consider taking advantage of our Bootstrap service for analytics. We do offer a Bootstrap service that you can take advantage of. You can also hire us for a more comprehensive consultation to help you determine for a given project what data to select, what KPIs to track, that sort of thing. Or just take the course and do it all on your own. I hope this was informative and educational. I hope you take advantage of it. You might as well. It's there anyway. Thank you so much for listening.